So the last one that we're going to cover are what I call mini teams, or if you're using Zoom, you can call these the breakout rooms. They allow the leaders within teams to come to the surface, to rise to the surface, and they also increase leadership skills among your team members. So that remember that as a team leader, you don't have to be the only leader of your group. A better strategy is to create mini teams or use the breakout rooms in Zoom to make your remote collaboration more interactive. This is the technique that we use when we conduct our virtual team building activities. We're getting so much great success and feedback from the virtual team building activities that we're doing now as a result of COVID-19 because of this particular aspect of them. The bigger the remote team is, the less likely team members are to interact with each other or the leader on meetings or in meetings, in these remote meetings. For instance, if you're doing a one-on-one meeting with someone, either virtually or in person, you're going to likely have a fairly balanced conversation. However, if you have five people meet, the odds that each of those five people will participate equally or effectively is going to drop. You increase that number to 10 and the collaboration drops even more. So a good fix to this challenge is to use the breakout rooms in Zoom or to create mini teams within your other meetings. I know that's one we work a lot with Microsoft. That's one of the things that the Microsoft Teams folks do. They use Microsoft Teams, but then when they're in a big meeting, let's say there's 30 people or 40 people in their big meeting, then they just assign them to other breakout rooms through Teams. And so you can use this with other different technologies as well. But for instance, when we conduct our virtual team building sessions, the things that we're doing now for a lot of our client companies, let's say there's 20 people in that Zoom meeting that we're doing. The first thing that we'll do is we'll divide them into breakout rooms with just one other team member. So we'll share information with them. We'll teach them something, but then we'll have them partner up with a single person to kind of discuss it or to practice that skill, whatever it is that we're teaching them at the time. And so it's much easier for them to be interactive with each other because there's only two people, right? So it's less risky, less of a challenge, and this basically is training the participants to interact with each other. If like for instance, if there's only two people meeting, it's easier to get both of them to communicate with each other. And then later in the meeting, we send them to the breakout rooms with two other people. So now there are three people in that meeting, that breakout room. And so we're increasing the complexity a little bit each time. And then later on, we'll have five team members in the room. So we'll go from 3 to 6 people in the room. So this technique makes it easier for remote team members to collaborate. It also teaches the team members how to collaborate. So if you're doing that on your weekly meetings or on your team meetings, it's going to continue to teach them the skill of how to collaborate more as a group. And so I would encourage you to do that in your team meetings. Now, these tools and techniques, they work so well that you should probably use them in the office when you come back, right? So if they're going to work for your team when your team is remote, you might try it when they come back to the office. The reason why is because in a lot of cases, if you're discussing this information via Slack, or if you're delivering meetings via Zoom, there are recordings that are made of that. So if somebody happens to miss a meeting, bang, now you can send them the meeting and they don't have to watch the whole thing. They can kind of skim through it to make sure that they're getting the gist of it. If we're using Slack to catalog the new ideas or to brainstorm ideas now, when we get to the point where we're trying to implement those ideas, it's all in writing and everybody has access to it. They can actually see it. So it improves that communication pretty dramatically. So whether you are continuing to do things on a remote basis or coming back to the office, I would encourage you to use a lot of these tools and these tips to make your teams more effective at collaborating, especially when they're remote.